Pussy Galore and lesbian pilots. Are you hooked? Today I wanted to talk about two of my favourite things, lesbians and James Bond. Pussy Galore is a character in the 1959 novel by Ian Fleming, Goldfinger, and she is in the 1964 film of the same name, directed by Guy Hamilton. In the book, she is explicitly described as a lesbian, as are her whole group of the Flying Circus. As a queer James Bond fan, and just because of how fucking cool she is, Pussy Galore is one of my favourite Bond girls. So canonically lesbian in the book, but is she a lesbian in the film? Also, is it a good representation of lesbians? No. But yes, here's why I like her. In Ian Fleming's 1959 novel, Pussy Galore is the only known woman to be running an organised crime gang. Pussy Galore and her acrobats, they were initially trapeze artists, but they were not good. They were unsuccessful, and so they decided to be cat burglars instead. They were known as the Cement Mixers, and their group evolved into an all-lesbian organisation. Pussy tells Bond that she was sexually assaulted by her uncle when she was 12 years old, and that's the reason why she became a lesbian, which obviously that's not good representation or how you become a lesbian. So many things wrong with that. Honor Blackman did say that in the film she played the character with this in mind for the backstory, even though it was never mentioned explicitly in it. But yeah, obviously doesn't hold great connotations about the cause of lesbian being like an after effect of assault or some kind of disease you can catch. Or Goldfinger enlists the help of Pussy and her cement mixers to operate Operation Grand Slam. This is a scheme to kill all of the agents that are guarding Fort Knox by poisoning the water with a waterborne nerve agent. Then he would use a nuclear weapon, which he bought for $1 million, to blow up the United States Bullion Depository, contaminating the $1 billion of gold there to make it radioactive, which would then vastly increase the value of his gold from Fort Knox. Goldfinger needs a group of women to impersonate nurses when the poison-stricken people of Fort Knox need help, so he chooses the cement mixers to pose as nurses and infiltrate Fort Knox. How does the film differ? A little, not massively. In the film, Pussy Galore is first seen after Bond wakes up in a private jet after being hit with a tranquilizer gun. There is then the infamous interaction where she tells him her name.
Who are you?
My name is Pussy Galore.
I must be dreaming.
Similarly to the book, she is the leader of Pussy Galore's Flying Circus, but instead of trapeze artists, they are a group of female pilots who are connected to Goldfinger's Operation Grand Slam. Little fun fact, in some of the scenes, the pilots are played by men in wigs. They said women can fly planes in fiction, but not in real life. In the film, Bond corners Pussy Galore in a barn and forcibly holds her down and kisses her. Initially, she tries to fight him off, but then she lets it happen and falls in love with him. She secretly turns against Goldfinger, having fallen for Bond's charms, and she alerts the CIA about the plan, so they swap the nerve gas for something that won't kill them, will just send them to sleep. And then at the end of the film, they are presumed to have sex together under a parachute after jumping out of a plane and shooting the window. Yeah, crazy stuff. So, what did people think? Pussy ranked second in a poll of favourite Bond girls in Entertainment Weekly in 2007, and her name is one of the most memorable Bond names for obvious reasons. They did consider changing her name to Kitty Galore because they were concerned about the censors, but Guy Hamilton said something really interesting. He said, if you were a 10-year-old boy and knew what the name meant, you weren't a 10-year-old boy. You were a dirty little bitch. The American censor was concerned, but we got round that by inviting him and his wife out to dinner and told him we were big supporters of the Republican Party. Make of that what you will. Honor Blackman had an absolutely great time during press, repeatedly saying her character's name and making the reporters and everyone just really uncomfortable. It's funny, you gotta give it to her, it is funny. I would say Pussy Galore as many times as possible if I got interviewed about it. So American censorship didn't interfere with her name in the film, but they did interfere with her name on the promotion, so her name on posters had to be Miss Galore or Goldfinger's personal pilot. You never saw Pussy Galore written on any of the US posters. I mean, it's such an iconic name and everyone knows about Pussy Galore. Like in the 1997 Austin Powers film, how they had a character called Alotta Vagina, in a sort of reference to our gal Pussy. There's also a Rolex nicknamed Pussy Galore because it's the watch that she wears in the film. Fucking cool. If anyone wants to get me one, PayPal me. Okay, so in the book and the film, she leads a group of acrobats or pilots. She's enlisted by Goldfinger to help out with Operation Grand Slam, and she switches sides to be with Bond and is generally badass. Where does the lesbianism come in? In the novel, she is canonically lesbian, and the word lesbian is said many times with a capital L. The word lesbian was often said in conjunction with her name, that being a defining characteristic. In the films, however, it's not explicit, it's more implicit. You can interpret it however you want, but at one point Pussy points out that she is immune to Bond's charms, which, take that as you will, I think that means she's not interested in men.
You can turn off the charm. I'm immune.
She surrounds herself by women, and Guy Hamilton said that they had to be careful about the censors, they had to glide over it. Well, the implications here! Let's get deep with it, guys! So Pussy Galore isn't the average Bond girl. She doesn't fall head over heels immediately for Bond, but despite her implicit sexuality, she does eventually fall for him. Even though so much emphasis is placed on her sexuality, especially in the book, Bond won't accept no as an answer. He takes it as a challenge, because he's gross. He just accepts it as like a small hurdle in his inevitable conquest. Bond blatantly disregards her identity as a lesbian, with Fleming even writing, "Bond felt the challenge beautiful lesbians have for men." Ew, gross. So she betrays Goldfinger at the same time that she betrays her lesbianism, reinforcing this kind of implicit link between homosexuality and bad and heterosexuality being good. So although her attraction to women is played down, it is still fairly obvious that in the film, Pussy is a lesbian converted by Bond. But all of this, I think, is a result of the viewpoints held at the time the film was come out. Fucking hell. It was the 60s, and the films are this near parody hyper-masculine dream of irresistible Western masculinity. It's less so about the fact that her sexuality changes and more so that Bond has the power to do that. I don't see this as her sexuality being erased. I see it more as men being really big-headed and thinking they have the power to seduce any woman they want. The macho, hyper-masculine character of Bond dismisses her sexuality, but it is still present and it is still valid. I think it's got a lot more to do with Bond being powerful and domineering than it has to do with Pussy not being a lesbian. So I will take that representation, cast aside the fact that she was converted, because I understand that was just the big-headed viewpoint of a man thinking he can change a woman. But we know that's not true. She is gay. I love her. Good night. She is a talented pilot, she is a beautiful woman, and she is badass. I love her. I think she is a great character. Although the film does perpetuate bad stereotypes that lesbians can be turned or that anyone's sexuality can be manipulated. I recognise this in the context of the social views at the time, and I still read her character as truly lesbian and truly cool. I also have a tattoo of the Flying Circus logo because women are cool, pilots are cool, Goldfinger is, I'm gonna say it, my favourite Bond film. Thank you very much for watching me talk about something I really enjoy. If you're interested in hearing more, please tell me, I will say more. I've got more to say. I like Bond and I like women. I think that's it really. Okay. Ciao!